car and a wife looking pretty. Swimming pool, lady in a fur coat out to dinner, diamond necklace, smiling pretty.
This is the road that lies before us into the depths of the night. This is the road that lies before us, breaking the chains of pain.
Wine and pretty.
Beyond us are warnings, crosses burning on the hills of bounty, of fortune, $25,000. We have a commitment to people waiting down the road. The danger won't stop us from traveling down this road. This is the road that lies before us into the depths of the night. This is the road that lies before us, breaking the chains of pain.
Wine and pretty.
Beyond us are warnings, crosses burning on the hills of bounty, of fortune, $25,000. We have a commitment to people waiting down the road. The danger won't stop us from traveling down this road. This is the road, breaking the chains of hate, the chains of hate, breaking the chains of hate. This is the road.
Good morning. So before I get started here, there is a gold Camry in the parking lot that happens to have a key in the lock on the outside of the door. So if this resembles your car, you might want to grab those keys out of it. Okay, that was beautiful, beautiful piece. I hope you all don't get tired of me saying this, but you all look amazing this morning. I'm very happy to be with you today. Welcome to Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I am Deidre Schwartz, your worship associate for this service this morning. We welcome all with open arms and hearts, and so happy you've joined us today, and hope you are all well in mind, body, and spirit. The mission statement of this congregation is this: we are a compassionate spiritual community that celebrates diversity, nurtures the personal and spiritual growth of all ages, shares our gifts, promotes justice for all, and serves the world we live in. Please join us in Davis Hall after service for coffee and conversation. For those of you joining us on Zoom, please join for the breakout rooms that will be set up after service concludes. If you're joining us for the first time, please check out our website at prescottuu.org for more information about us. But if you're here in person, there will be time to introduce yourself at the end of service, and then please stay and chat with a member or two afterwards. Gratitude for today's service goes out to Lena Huben, our pianist, to our choir director, Mary Lou Prince, and the Granite Peak Singers, and all of our Sunday morning volunteers. Now is a good time to check that your phones are on silent mode. Oh, yeah. In addition to the announcements that we're showing on the screen before the service, you'll find other things happening at GPUUC in the Weekly Peak newsletter, on our website, in Reverend Patty's videos, and the printed announcements that are at the welcome table in the foyer. You'll find our faith development coordinator, Sandra Pelosios, teaching ages 5 and older across the street at our faith development building. It is the UU tradition to begin our service with the lighting of our chalice. Our chalice lighter this morning is Zoe McPherson. To accompany the chalice lighting, I've chosen some words from Hillary Clinton that continue to ring true today. There cannot be true democracy unless women's voices are heard. There cannot be true democracy unless women are given the opportunity to take responsibility for their own lives. There cannot be true democracy unless all citizens are able to participate fully in the lives of their country. Whether I am meant to or not, I challenge assumptions by women. I do make some people uncomfortable, which I'm very aware of, but that's just part of coming to grips with what I believe is still one of the most important pieces of unfinished business in human history, empowering women to be able to stand up for themselves.
And I welcome all of you on Zoom too. I think I forgot you when I first got up here. Welcome. Welcome to all of you. I am sort of basking in the discomfort of the Women's March yesterday. And we are blessed to be here together. We welcome the Girl Scouts as represented by Donna Dotzler, and we also invite into this space, I want each of you to think of the women who are part of who you are. Of course, there are our mothers, but there are many women who have contributed to our lives at so many different times. I have cowboy boots on that have sequins for my grandmother who dressed up in the little towns of Wyoming. She was even known for a hat that actually had a bird on it. We each are here because others have walked before us bravely. At the Women's March yesterday, we witnessed the diversity of women and their experiences. And today, and at that time, unfortunately, it wasn't possible to listen to the poem that was read by a Navajo woman. This is a poem called Remember by Joy Harjo, by the poet laureate, who is the poet laureate of the United States and a member of the Creek Nation. We open this service with these words. Remember the sky you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon. Know who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn. That is the strongest point of time. Remember sundown and the giving away to night. Remember your birth, how your mother struggled to give you form and breath. You are evidence of her life and her mother's and hers. Remember your father, he is your life also. Remember the earth whose skin you are, red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth, we are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life, who all have their tribes, their families, their histories too. Talk to them, listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind, remember her voice. She knows the origin of this universe. Remember, you are all people, and all people are you. Remember, you are this universe, and this universe is you. Remember, all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember, language comes from this. Remember, the dance language is, that life is. Remember. Let us rise in body or spirit, and we will sing one of my favorite Unitarian songs. And those of you who come from other places who've heard this, you can tell me it isn't Unitarian, but I thought it was. Every woman in the world, let us rise in body or spirit. Thank you, thank you. You sang well. I hear a lot of choir members out there. Let us say our covenant together. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, thus do we covenant together. And now I invite you again into the sound of the bell, which Thich Nhat Hanh calls this sound a call to come home. I invite you to feel or remember the feeling of your feet on this earth. Perhaps that soft earth in a deep forest, or a sandy beach or rocky place, or some of those places of granite outcroppings that feels that you are walking on the back of a prehistoric animal. And we feel above us those clouds. We are blessed to be able to feel the sun so often on our shoulders. We feel this earth awakening. The daffodils in our front garden are just beginning to come up. And all throughout this earth, we hold especially those places. We hold Gaza, Yemen, Ukraine, the people of those lands, those places that are experiencing war. There are so many, too many to name at this time. And we hold in happiness in this congregation Diane Harper, who has come through her surgery well. She's experiencing a complication, but the surgery went well. Craig Phillips is out of ICU. Lee Phillips is home. Udell Stuckey is recovering from her fall at a rehab center here. We also especially hold DeMarco, Andrea Schmidlin's grandson, in the light of our love and hope for peace and justice in this world. We hold all those who were at that Women's March yesterday. We hold the complexity of women's lives. Let us breathe together. And now I invite you into a time of meditation during which you can put stones in the water to represent you are bringing them to this place of community, and the ripples will go out to all of us. I put a stone, and others for other people, but especially a stone for my niece, Rebecca. We also especially hold Maggie Rogers' friend Doc, who had cancer surgery and everything was removed. Not everything. That sounds bad. All the cancer was removed. Sorry about that, Maggie. Everything bad was removed. Oh gosh. It's good to laugh, isn't it? Isn't it good? It's so good. I think laughter has sometimes been for me the best healing I have known. And now we will let us sing our prayers, and considering all those who are on our hearts and mind and this earth, let us sing Spirit of Life. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Giving life the shame of justice, whose holding close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. La justicia de la vida, arráigame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí. We also hold the husband of Gloria Flores, who is the woman who makes our sanctuary and building beautiful during the week. She just is going to Albuquerque to have her husband, his heart looked at, and we will be hoping that that surgery or whatever happens goes well. Let us hold her. Thank you.
As we prepare to take the offering this morning, let us recognize and appreciate the connections and community that we have here each week. This congregation and its wide array of programs are supported by your generosity. We give back to the greater community through our Seeds of Support program. This month, we are supporting the Coalition for Compassion and Justice. You can read about this important organization and its mission in your order of service. In addition, March is Stewardship Month, and I'd like to add a few words relevant to this effort. We encourage all our online members and friends to join us in supporting this congregation. You can make an online pledge by going to our donate page on the PrescottUU.org website. When the Support Granite Peak page is displayed, scroll down to the 2024-25 Stewardship Campaign block and click on the click for more info. Feel free to read all the material on the 2024 and 2025 Stewardship Campaign page. Then scroll to the bottom of the page and click on the pledge card to complete the online pledge card. To give online, the link is also available in the chat for today's service. You could also go to the website as well. Please enjoy our offertory music titled I Am Woman by Helen Reddy and Ray Burton, played by Lena. What is given with generosity and love is received with gratitude. Blessed be.
We are beginning today with a video that shows you a little bit of the life of Martha Sharp. I chose her for the Girl Scouts, so Donna, you'll have to tell them all about her. She was a Unitarian woman whose life took a turn. Let us watch her story for a couple of minutes. How many of you knew about Martha Sharp? Have heard of her? Okay, a few of you. So in late August, during one of the years of the war, before she returned to her family, this was after they had been in Europe for a while, Martha Sharp composed a letter to her son Hastings to explain why she would be staying in France a little longer. She was recording as well her own rationale for prolonging her absence from him and her daughter, whose name was Martha Content. She was going to be gone for another extended period of time. This is what she wrote. I have some very important news for you. Here in France today, the children do not have enough food. They do not have enough milk. There is not enough soap left to wash the clothes. There's not enough wool to make them sweaters, and there is no coal to heat the houses for winter. So the children will be hungry and cold, and some of them will be sick. These children would like to have good food and warm houses. Some families in America are inviting these children to come and spend a year or so with them in their homes. They must come soon before winter, so I am going to wait until I can arrange for them and bring them to America myself. This means that I shall not return home with Dad. She stayed alone. I must wait until I can make all the arrangements for the children. So I must give up seeing you until about your birthday. Then what a celebration we will have. Lovingly, Mommy. The winter of 1939, as you saw in this video, Reverend Waitstill and Martha Sharp were living in the affluent town of Wellesley, Massachusetts. They had 2 children, and Waitstill was the minister of the Unitarian Congregation of Wellesley Hills, and Martha worked with him and oversaw the care of their children. They were comfortable until they got that phone call that changed everything. Beyond their comfort as a family, they deeply felt the perilous state of the world. Just as today many of us carry with us images of the unrest in the world, the tragic realities of Gaza and Ukraine, they carried the images of what had happened only months before in Germany and German-speaking areas, such as the Sudetenland of Czechoslovakia. For starting in the late hours of November 9th, 1938, and continuing into the next day, Nazi bombs torched or otherwise vandalized hundreds of synagogues throughout Germany, and damaged, if not completely destroyed, thousands of Jewish homes, schools, businesses, hospitals, and cemeteries. Nearly 100 Jews were murdered during the violence, and thousands were taken away to camps. Nazi officials ordered German police officers and firemen to do nothing as the riots raged and the buildings burned. Although firefighters were allowed to extinguish blazes that threatened Aryan-owned property. This letter was written by a retired fireman who remembered the Kristallnacht, Crystal Night, in Laupheim, Germany. The alarm went off between 5 to 5:30 a.m., and as usual, I jumped on my bicycle towards the firehouse. I had a strange feeling when I got there and saw many people standing in front of it. I was not allowed to go into the firehouse to take the engines out or even to open the doors. One of my friends who lived next to the synagogue whispered to me, "Be quiet, the synagogue is burning." I was beaten up already when I tried to put out the fire. Eventually, we were allowed to take the fire engines out, but only very slowly. We were ordered not to use any water until the whole synagogue was burned down. Many of us did not like to do that, but we had to be careful not to voice our opinions because the enemy is listening. We just had to stand and watch until the house of prayers was reduced to rubble. So on that cold night in Wellesley Hills, Massachusetts, images like this of what was happening in Europe were on Martha and Waitstill's minds when Everett Baker told them that they had a unique opportunity, that they had been chosen for an emergency relief operation in Czechoslovakia. They would be countering the forces of the Third Reich. Czechoslovakia was key to Unitarians because of Unitaria that still has a huge building in Prague. It was the church of Norbert Čapek. Norbert Čapek is someone we lift up in our congregation on the flower, when we have our flower communion. He started that. He also died for his beliefs, his radical beliefs in Dachau. So when Norbert Čapek asked the Unitarians in the United States for help, they did what we often do. They said, "We will send money." And Norbert Čapek would have none of their money. He said, "I want you to send me people." I wonder if there will be a time we will be called. The Sharps were the 18th couple that he had asked. And especially for Martha, as much as her heart ached for the people of Czechoslovakia who were being endangered by what was happening, she was the mother of 2 children, Hastings, 7, and Martha Content, who was only 2. She didn't want to leave them. It would be impossible to really explain to them why their parents needed to go. They wouldn't understand that other people's lives were at stake. They would only feel the loss. But after much consideration and prayer and her husband's pushing, she reluctantly agreed to go. And soon after they arrived in Prague on March 15th, Hitler's army marched into Czechoslovakia. Under these difficult circumstances, Martha and Waitstill continued their work in Prague. Martha soon discovered that she had a kind of gift for espionage, which I think is so wonderful. She was able to think on her feet, and her fine brain came up with innovative solutions that worked. She was able to lose Gestapo agents who were tailing her on dark streets, and she was able to convince people in high places to give some of their privilege, even by breaking or bending rules, to save lives. I always thought I would be a good spy, so I love her story. Waitstill found that he had an amazing ability to do international money laundering, and that helped people in Czechoslovakia. It helped them be able to leave and begin life in safer places in the world. And through this work that came to them on that night, they both discovered they had new gifts. And Martha, who had perhaps thought she would have a rather conventional life, became acquainted with her own power. Her vision of who she was and what she could do transformed. After several months away from the family, they returned to Wellesley Hills, convinced that they would reestablish their family life. Germany invaded Poland. And after, there were several months of relative quiet. And in that quiet, the Sharps settled back into their lives. And then in May of 1940, the Blitzkrieg was launched on France, Belgium, and Holland. The Unitarian hierarchy called the Sharps again and spoke of the beginnings of the Unitarian Service Committee, now the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, and they were asked to head the operation in Europe with their headquarters in Portugal. When they refused, which they did at first, they said they wanted to stay with their family. They were ordered to go. They indicated that Waitstill's career as a minister would be over if he did not go. Isn't that something? They went, leaving their children alone again. And I'm sure those of you who are parents, I want us to think of what that would be. And I see heads doing this. It was very, very hard. And this time they became directly involved in alleviating the suffering of children. If you look at these photographs, this photograph of Martha and Waitstill, you can see in them these two people who are on the edge of making this huge, huge step. And I hope that I would love to show the documentary made by Ken Burns about their lives in this sanctuary so that you can look at the faces of the refugee children. I think that when Martha engaged in this work and got to know these children, that something happened in her heart during those months when she couldn't see her own children. I think she began to see the faces of her own children in those children who were in such great physical danger. The couple was able to get huge transports of milk to refugees in southern France. And when it was time to leave and go home, Martha told Waitstill that she couldn't, that she had to stay. Can you imagine how hard that was? She wanted to stay a few more months because she had a plan to transport the children in the greatest danger to the United States. That's when she wrote that letter that I read at the beginning. I wonder if this is why a woman who's a stranger to us expressed such anger when they heard that Ken Burns' documentary of the Sharps was being shown at a church. The woman said we should not celebrate Martha Sharp because she didn't take good care of her own children. She was not going to watch that show. I believe there is danger in taking opportunities that come to us. And there is danger in passing them by. I wonder how we can be more generous with each other's choices both ways. Eleanor Roosevelt said and lived, "I believe that anyone can conquer fear by doing the things he fears to do." She advised us to do one thing a day that scared us. I think of that advice often, and it's interesting that I think often the things that scare us as individuals do not scare other people. And I felt yesterday the diversity and the complexity of women's lives, of the women who gathered at the Women's March. The people who were gathering, the pro-life, women who were pro-life, the people who, all of the different signs, the great complexity that we live as humans in this world. And I believe that sometimes the greatest courage is needed for staying with one's children and giving up a flashy opportunity. I believe we must practice loving kindness with the choices of others that are different from our own. And I believe we must practice loving kindness with our own choices. Sometimes people I know talk of having no regrets. And it's been my experience that regrets are impossible to avoid. And that's what makes choices so hard. I believe that Martha had regrets because she wished she could be with her children. And this doesn't mean that she thought that she had made the wrong decision to help so many children. This work that Martha and her husband did during World War II lives with us. It lives with us through the children of the children who were saved through their work. Many of the parents of the children who were at risk died in concentration camps. And it lives on in a tradition of our Unitarian Universalist faith in lighting a chalice. Hans Deutsch, an American artist who an Austrian artist who worked with the Sharps, first brought together the chalice and the flame as a Unitarian symbol during his work with the Unitarian Service Committee during World War II. To Deutsch, the image had connotations of both sacrifice and love. It was a way that assisted people at risk to identify who were the Unitarians who were there to help them. They would have symbols of the chalice. We Unitarian Universalists hope to keep that meaning alive each week as we light our chalice. We hope that when people see our building now so beautifully spiffed up, let's do a hand for our project team that have made our surroundings so beautiful. But we want, when people go by, to think of a community that not only espouses good things, but is actively engaged in the community, doing what is needed. Let us keep the life of Martha Sharp alive among us, a woman who unexpectedly to herself was able to do great work in the world and save many lives. Amen, and may it be so. And now I invite you, let us rise in body or spirit and sing, "We Are Dancing Sarah's Circle." Sometimes it takes courage to be a spy. And sometimes it takes all the courage that we have to do that thing that will bring us joy. Helen Keller's life is full of her search for joy and her willingness to take risks to find joy. I wonder what each of us are willing to risk to fulfill our own capacity for joy. Helen Keller wanted to dance. She had an excellent friend in Martha Graham who invited her to her studio to be with her dancers. But she didn't just want to watch the dancers. She wanted to dance. And on one of her visits, Helen says, "Martha, what is jumping? I don't understand." So she asks a member of the company, Merce Cunningham, to stand at the bar. She approaches him from behind and says, "Merce, be very careful. I'm putting Helen's hands on your body," and places Helen Keller's hands on his waist. Cunningham cannot see Keller, but he feels her hands like bird wings, so soft. Everyone in the studio stands quite still, focusing on what is happening. Cunningham jumps up in the air while Keller's hands rise up with his body. Her hands rose and fell as Merce did, recalled Martha Graham. Helen learned the joy of leaping and dancing and how it felt to have rhythms flowing through her. She didn't stand in the corner and say, "May I have this dance?" She said, "I will join this dance." Please listen to the choir sing a song written for her, Helen's Dance.
Join this dance with my hands and heart. I will join this dance. Though I cannot see and I cannot hear, I will join this dance. When I was a child, I could feel the sounds
So now we are actually at the time for extinguishing our chalice. And then I'm going to invite Donna to come up. And so before we extinguish, you have time during the extinguishing to think of who are the women who have influenced your lives. Who are the women you read about or in your own circle of family, or a teacher, or a Girl Scout leader? Who are the people who lived their lives in such a way that, or spoke with you in such a way that you felt your value? And so that's what I want you to think about. So now we extinguish our chalice. And those of you on Zoom, you must speak about these things during the breakout rooms. And I will know if you don't. Okay. It's the spy thing. So let us say our words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now, Donna, would you join me? Because she had a little more time to think about someone who was important, a woman who was important in her life. Stephanie is with her. Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us, first of all. I've had a few days to think about so many women that influenced my life, because being with Girl Scouts, I'm surrounded by strong young women and experienced women. And I'm gonna cry. I think especially lately, the one that is in my mind all the time is my youngest daughter. 24 years old, just barely, and has overcome so many things in her life. And starting in middle school, I guess, especially in high school, with an assault and some pretty severe medical issues. And through all of that, where people around her were kind of falling apart, somehow she became stronger. And she just has always had the most amazing, realistic ideas and values, and has never, ever been afraid to stand up and voice her very respectful opinions to people younger, same age, and even those older than she is. Never once has anyone been able to accuse her of being disrespectful, but also she stands up for herself and she does what needs to be done. Side note, I've never known her to pass a homeless person on the street without stopping. And even though she's a poor, struggling university student, she and her boyfriend stop and talk to them and just, offer suggestions or just words and kindness. And the latest one, it just so happened that the person was deaf, and both of them spoke a little bit of sign language, enough to communicate. And she just called me later in tears. She was just so happy to have that opportunity. And so she's the one that influences me all the time. I always have her in the back of my head and in my text messages.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you.
the idea was that there would be Girl Scouts up here to tell you about the women who inspired them, but the Girl Scouts are off doing more fun things or being sick, from what I hear. Yes. So Donna gave me an hour of heads up on this, maybe. And I am an attorney, for those of you that don't know, and I always think about like luminary attorneys, but I also think of two women in my life. So my grandma Jo, who divorced her husband when my mom was 2 and went on to become a full-time teacher, supporter of women. She had 2 best friends who, both women, they were roommates in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s when I met them. And my grandma always stood for social justice. She sent me the newspaper, the physical, actual newspaper, when Barack Obama was elected. She was so excited. And I always think of her. And on my dad's side of the family, I always think of my Aunt Lynn, who was the hippie black sheep of the Air Force family, who got her master's in social work and is still doing amazing things today. So those are who I think of.
Thank you. And now they have passed all the batons to you. And I want you to, when you have a chance to eat a cookie next door or whatever is out there, and have a cup of coffee, talk about those women. Bring in their energy. We always need that energy, for the work is big that lies before us, just as it was for Martha and Wait Still. And now I'm going to make it to the back of the room before anybody grabs me. Thank you. Go in peace. Thank you.